AITA for losing my cool on my boyfriend after he brought up my stepbrother in front of my family. I, 25F, have been dating my boyfriend Mark 30M for just over a year. Things have been moving quickly for us, and a few months ago, we decided to take a big step in our relationship. We moved in together. Living together has been a dream. Mark is attentive, loving, and makes me feel safe. He's the kind of guy who will make me coffee in the morning and leave little notes around the apartment just to brighten my day. I've never felt this connected to anyone before, and I honestly saw him as someone I could build a future with. But like all relationships, ours isn't perfect. I have a complicated past, particularly when it comes to my family, and Mark has always been aware of that. When I was a teenager, around 13 to 15 years old, I went through a deeply traumatic experience involving my stepbrother, Jason. Jason abused me during those years, and it shattered my world. When my mom and stepdad found out, it was like a bomb went off in our family. My stepdad was devastated. He's always been a good man and treated me well, but Jason is his son. He was torn between protecting me and dealing with the reality of what his son had done. My stepdad cut off Jason for a few years. Jason wasn't allowed at the house, and he lost a lot of connections with family and friends. It was a very dark time, and while my stepdad never blamed me, I could see the pain it caused him. Eventually, my stepdad decided not to completely sever his relationship with Jason. He didn't want to ruin his son's life entirely, and I understood that. We all decided to keep what had happened private. No extended family, no friends, nobody outside the immediate household knew the full story. It was our unspoken agreement to avoid talking about it altogether. I moved on the best I could, but I think the experience left a mark on all of us. My mom and stepdad tried to be supportive, but I always felt a lingering tension whenever Jason's name came up, which was rare. Fast forward to now. Mark knows about what happened with Jason, but it's not something we discuss often. I told him everything early on in our relationship because I felt it was important for him to understand that part of my past. He seemed sympathetic and was supportive in all the right ways, never asking too many questions, just letting me share at my own pace. I appreciated that, and I thought he understood that Jason was a topic best left in the past. Last weekend, Mark and I went to my mom and stepdad's house for a family dinner. It was the third time Mark was meeting them, and I was excited for us to spend more time together as a group. My mom and stepdad had invited a few members of our extended family, and the atmosphere was light and friendly. We were all sitting around the dining table, talking and laughing, when Mark suddenly brought up Jason out of nowhere. At first, he asked what seemed like innocent questions. How old is Jason now? And what's he doing for work? My heart dropped. It was like everything around me went silent, and all I could focus on was Mark's voice. I shot him a look, one that clearly said stop talking, but he didn't notice or just chose to ignore it. I tried to steer the conversation in another direction, asking my uncle about his new job and talking to my mom about the food, but Mark wasn't taking the hint. He pressed on, asking more personal questions about Jason. Do you still keep in touch with him? Is he doing okay now? Is he a normal person? His tone wasn't aggressive, but the questions felt intrusive, like a spotlight was suddenly shining on the darkest part of my past. My stepdad answered Mark's questions politely but hesitantly, giving vague answers that clearly indicated he was uncomfortable. The rest of the family sat in awkward silence, not knowing where to look or what to say. I felt exposed. This was my worst nightmare playing out in real time. My carefully guarded family's secret being dragged into the open for no good reason. The atmosphere that had been warm and welcoming moments ago turned cold and tense. My mom looked at me with worried eyes. My stepdad looked resigned, and Mark, clueless as ever, just kept going. As soon as there was a lull in the conversation, I whispered to Mark that we should leave. He seemed confused but agreed, and we quickly made our goodbyes. The car ride home was tense and quiet until I couldn't hold it in any longer. I turned to Mark and asked him, "What the hell was that? Why would you bring up Jason like that in front of my family?" Mark seemed genuinely baffled by my anger. He said he was just curious about how my family felt about Jason and didn't think it was a big deal. He tried to justify it by saying, they're going to be my family too, so I thought I should get to know these things. That comment sent me over the edge. I couldn't believe that he was trying to normalize what had just happened. I told him he was completely out of line and that he had no right to bring up such a painful part of my past without my consent. Mark apologized, but it didn't feel sincere. It felt like he was just saying what he thought I wanted to hear. He kept repeating that he didn't know how to handle the situation and that he was sorry if he messed up, but by then, I was too angry to listen. When we got home, the argument escalated. I needed space to process everything, but Mark kept trying to make up with me, and I wasn't ready. I pushed him away, and in his frustration, he slammed his fist on the counter, shattering a glass. He stormed off to the guest room and slammed the door behind him, leaving me alone to pick up the pieces, literally and figuratively. The next few days were filled with awkward silences and a heavy sense of tension between us. Mark tried to give me space, but it was clear that things were not okay. I kept replaying the whole scene in my mind, wondering if I had overreacted or if Mark truly didn't understand the boundaries he had crossed. I felt guilty for lashing out, but I also felt betrayed by his insensitivity. I haven't spoken to my mom or stepdad about it because I'm too embarrassed. I don't want them to think badly of Mark, and I certainly don't want to reopen old wounds by talking about Jason. But I can't shake the feeling that something fundamental has shifted in my relationship with Mark. I trusted him with the darkest part of my past, and in that moment, it felt like he used it as casual conversation fodder without a second thought. Now I'm left questioning everything. Was I wrong for losing my cool? Was Mark genuinely curious? Or did he just not care about the impact his questions would have? I'm struggling to figure out where we go from here. I don't want to lose Mark, but I also don't know how to move past this. I keep wondering if I'm justified in feeling this hurt, or if I let my past trauma cloud my judgment. Mark and I are trying to rebuild, but it's hard when something like this happens. It's a painful reminder that no matter how much you love someone, the past can still come back to haunt you in the most unexpected ways. I'm just hoping that we can find a way to navigate this together, even if I'm not sure where to start.